Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Lovers Rock. So this is the second film in the Steve McQueen's Small Axe anthology series. Whether it is a TV episode or a movie is kind of confusing because it was released on TV on BBC One in England and on Amazon Prime in America within a week of each other, and then also played film festivals, and I don't know. I am going to do a review of the entire Small Axe series at a certain point, but Lovers Rock was something I felt extra passionate about, and I know a lot of critics have, and it's appeared on top 10 lists independent of the Small Axe series, and I kind of just wanted to do a video on that because I just really liked it. I thought it was a great piece of filmmaking, and why not? I've not seen the entire Small Axe series. I've only seen The Mangrove and Lovers Rock. So far, I like it the best out of the two. This is really just because I'm extra passionate about this, whether it's a TV show or not. It's only about 68 minutes, so it's not a huge time investment, but it is a great 68 minutes. So that's kind of to preface what exactly this is in case you're unaware. But Lovers Rock is really just a very wonderful party movie. And I think when you think of party movies, there's all this they're putting on the party of the century, or there's some crazy comedic reason they're doing it and all that stuff. Lovers Rock is not that. Lovers Rock is very small. It's just about a house party in West London. The Small Axe series is all about West Indian immigrants to specifically West London. Although the previous one, Mangrove, was far more political, this is just one night, a house party from setup to the next morning, basically. And additionally, I would say there's sort of a protagonist, but not really. It's more atmospheric. You kind of get the smells of the party, you get the sweat of the party, you get the wonderful reggae music in this. This is absolutely my favorite soundtrack of 2020. I found a Spotify playlist. I'll try to link it in the description because it's really wonderful. Just really great music. It's like going to a great party. You have a wonderful night. You stay up too late. You might have drank too much. You probably danced with someone that you had a good time with. And that's sort of it. And this is kind of like a slice of life party movie, which I'm surprised more people don't do, because this is just absolutely incredibly engaging, almost very arty at the same time. This plays so much into what Steve McQueen does as a director because he's so good at atmosphere. A lot of people have brought up that he's so good at doing these shots that hold too long, that are painful, whether in 12 Years a Slave or Hunger or Shame. And in The Mangrove, he has one where a colander's on the floor kind of moving back and forth after a police raid, and he's very good at that atmosphere. But I think in this, he takes that skill he has with atmosphere and holding on shots too long and just gets that feeling of a party that felt so real to me. I was like, oh, I know exactly that feeling. Grinding with someone on the dance floor, waiting in line for the bathroom, the food that they're selling at the party. Just so many things like that I just, growing up in Baltimore, going to punk show parties or something like that, and being there from the beginning to the end, it just transported me to that. Now, this film takes place in 1980. It seems to be there's some debate if it's 1979 or 1980, but culturally those are fairly close, so I get it. And even though I've never been to, I don't think I've been to that area of London or lived there or gone to a house party there, it felt very universal. It felt like a party I'd been to a bunch of times, and I found that to be, mainly party movies are more just fun because of the characters that are there, and I think there are still fun characters in this, but I think this is way more about the piece and the atmosphere of it than it is about anything else, and that is such an ingenious way to make a party movie. Steve McQueen is so good at just getting kind of almost the vibe of a certain thing, whether, in Widows, for example, which is a movie of his I really love, where he gets the wealth disparity of Chicago. And in this, it's he gets the vibe of a party, which is just really remarkable how well he is. I mean, I've never seen an arty party movie, which is just so cool. I just love it because it's so enjoyable. It's so much fun. You have everything from, two girlfriends who go to the party together, getting dressed, hanging out before. I was just kind of surprised at how well he got it, basically. I've never seen a filmmaker take as much, I guess, of their filmmaking talents to capture kind of a night of a party in such a way, and not do it through a particular protagonist, not do it through, have it be a scene that needs to represent something. It's just here is this party in 1980 in West London with these particular people, and let's just have fun with it. It is also interesting, I've read a couple people mention that the West Indian communities would eventually go into New York and in Brooklyn and in London. A lot of what they're doing here with reggae would eventually be what people were doing with like DJs and hip hop in New York, and how that would grow up. And that is interesting, when you think about it, they don't really have two turntables in this. I think they only have one, and they have like this kind of police siren kind of noise to transition between records. It's kind of that interesting cultural moment between like, I guess, disco or the disco era and when hip hop took over, and showing like how much reggae had to do with those kind of DJ sets. It still does actually, but it's kind of an interesting way to look at where culturally this was, because obviously like hip hop would take over almost every dance party there would be kind of very soon after this. So it's an interesting way to look at this kind of cultural moment, but I don't think it's really about that. I just think it's about like, what was it like for the West Indian community to have a party when you were young, and what is that like, and what was it like in 1980 or 1979, whatever it is, what was it like to go to a party there? And he kind of transported me, and I was thinking about when I was watching this, one of the things I love about filmmaking and art in general is sort of being transported to another era, another time that like I would never probably be invited to that party, especially because I didn't exist then. But like that's probably never a place I would be, but I got to live that night for an hour basically, and I felt transported in there, and it just felt so lovely and wonderful, like a good party. Like you want to go out again the next weekend. Like I went to a great party, I heard some great music. I'm gonna have to go to the record store and get some of that music. I'm gonna have to remember what that song was. It just reminded me of that kind of wonderful time, and like how much fun it was, smoking weed while listening to music at the end of the party. Like just all those wonderful feelings are all wrapped up into Lovers Rock, and I just think this is a real cinematic gem of the year. I think Steve McQueen did an amazing job with this film, and it's probably one of the films of his I have loved the most. And it's one I actually, I watched, my wife and I were trying to watch all of the Small Axe series. This is one of his that I've actually like rewatched part of, because I loved having it on. Like a good record, I just like the ambiance, I just like the feeling of it. And I don't know if I ever have felt that way about a Steve McQueen movie. He's not usually that kind of director, which also makes this so surprising. And I do think one of the things I really love about this film is it feels very Steve McQueen, but it's like a lot of fun, and it's like definitely his voice. It's definitely him as a director, but it is such a fun party, kind of fun vibe sort of movie, and that's just so surprising from him, but it fits so well too, which is just like most of the time when filmmakers make like a fun movie, you're like, oh, it's like a different side of him, but it like, I mean it is, but it like doesn't feel that way. It feels very appropriately him, which is pretty cool actually. I think he did an amazing job. This is probably one of the smartest in terms of director theory. This is probably one of the best directed films this year, because he was able to take his own theory of himself, this thing that we've seen him do in so many great movies already, and he was able to apply it to something entirely different in a kind of movie that uses his atmospheric nature in a really fun, beautiful environment. And it just kind of reminds you of how much, I mean, especially now because of COVID, and also because I'm like old and no one invites me to parties like this anymore, but it just reminded me of how wonderful a party is, and kind of the joy nature of that, like the anger, the drama, all those things, like seeing someone at the beginning of a party and they're like, oh, they look weird, and then you sort of know their personality later in like hour 6 or something, like the bodyguard who has the girlfriend with the glasses and stuff. Like it's just a really wonderful movie, and I'm not sure how I'm going to rank the Small Axe series on my top 10 or anything like that, but regardless of all that, I think Lovers Rock is one of the best movies I've seen, or best pieces of content, or whatever things mean anymore, of 2020. And I think Steve McQueen did a wonderful job of capturing a party, probably better than I've ever seen it captured on film before. So if you have seen Lovers Rock and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to.